Hey everyone, this is Victoria Zait's Psychic Medium, and I am doing a series on the weekend intensive that I am teaching, which is coming up very soon. It's June 7th and 8th at the First United Methodist Church in Pittsburgh. It will be 3 to 8 p.m. both days. It's called Intuitive Living, Trusting the Wisdom of Spirit in Everyday Life. You can go there and register at my website. It's www.victoriazates.com. And we have a deadline coming up. The early bird registration discount is going to be in effect until this Saturday, May 24th. So I encourage you to go on the website and register early to save a little bit of money. So I wanted to get into the second session as far as what you're going to learn, and I call it Know Thyself and Lift Your Vibes. So when I'm talking about knowing yourself, which is a very important spiritual concept overall, I'm talking about knowing what your psychic strengths and weaknesses are. We're going to talk about a couple of the different ways that psychic ability manifests. One of them is clairvoyance. All of these come from the French, so clair means clear, voyance refers to sight. And clairvoyance is often a catch-all term. That's really more of the misuse of it. But clairvoyance is more of the visual aspect. So all of these gifts are extensions of your usual five senses. But clairvoyance is the extension of sight. So typically people who have the gift of clairvoyance tend to be very visual types of people. So creative people, artists, photographers, people who visually learn. So an example of clairvoyance would be receiving information in your dreams in a visual sense. Typically people who are clairvoyant have a heightened visual perception and have very clear dreams. So that is one way that it can come through. If you've ever seen, especially at night, sometimes it's easier to see little balls of light, of energy moving around the room. That's an example of a clairvoyant ability to notice and see that energy. Of course, it's if you were to see a visual apparition, of course, that's clairvoyance. It's also a very subtle inner sense, so it has to do with what you can see through your mind's eye, as most of these senses are actually very subtle and not as dramatic as seeing a full-bodied apparition, which a lot of people might not want to see. Most of the time, I will get a visual image or like a little movie that plays in your head, and that is an example of clairvoyance. A lot of people get upset because they're not able to see something, or they try to visualize something in a meditation and they have difficulty doing that. It doesn't mean you're not intuitive or psychic. It simply means that you may have some other forms of that ability. Clairaudience means clear hearing, and people who are very good with this type of ability tend to be good with language. They can be a little bit more left-brained and analytical. But this is the ability to hear things, hearing voices, which of course sounds a little crazy, but I assure you it's not. If you have this sort of inner voice that speaks to you, if you hear a word, one of the ways that you can use clairvoyance in your life is the beginning of the day, thinking of what is the word that really needs to guide me on my day. So if you hear words or you hear spirits, it could even be from people who have passed. This is an example of clairaudience. If you are running through a busy intersection and you hear a loud voice that says stop, that's probably your inner guidance trying to keep you safe. So that's an example of clairaudience. One of the really big ones that can be very challenging for people to deal with is clairsentience or clear feeling. And this is the empathic ability. So people who are empathic are very sensitive individuals. They can feel other people's feelings as if they were their own, very viscerally a lot of times. So you can, feel people's physical conditions, their headaches, their stomach aches, and it can be something that can be a bit overwhelming for people. Empaths have difficulty in crowds a lot of times because they can pick up on the feelings and the mood of a crowd or of a group of people or even just a place. If you walk into a room and there's an argument that was just happened there, sometimes there's a vibe that you can pick up on in a clairsentient way. So it does very much have to do with feeling. Claircognizance would be what people would refer to as a gut feeling. So that's clear knowing. And it's often, a sense in your gut that something is true or something isn't true. And you normally have a very strong conviction as far as just knowing something, although you might not really understand how you know something. An example of that would be if a mother has a son who has gone off to war and is killed in battle, and she just knows, instantly before she's ever given the information that that person has passed on, would be an example of claircognizance. There are a couple other ones that are not as common, and clear tasting and clear smelling, which for me often come with mediumship type of experiences with people who have passed. So I may taste, an Italian grandmother's tomato sauce coming through as an identifier that she, was Italian or she liked to cook. Clear smelling is something that also is not very common, but you may have a particular smell associated with a person, a particular flower like these lovely ones right here. It can be a smell for your guide. So my guide is very associated with the smell of roses, and I have picked up on that several times, just really out of the blue. So all of these are very much extensions of your normal five senses, and there are ways that you can determine where you're strong and where you're weak, and specific exercises that you can do to heighten the different types of ability that you have. But the important thing to realize is these are all very subtle types of experiences typically. A lot of times from TV shows, people think that a psychic ability is going to come and smack you in the face. And most of the time it's not as dramatic as all of that. And that's why meditation is an important aspect of developing, because you learn to tune in to the subtleties and the nuances. So that's a general overview of all of those gifts. Of course, we're going to get into much, much, much greater detail in the weekend intensive on all of those, and we're going to figure out where you're strong and where you're weak, and do exercises that are really going to open up every one of those abilities. So also, you can go to my website, a reminder again, www.victoriazaitz, VICTORIAZAITZ.com to register. And I'm excited to teach this, and I hope to see all of you there. Thank you very much, and blessings and namaste.